Hello and welcome to another edition of DX Engineering Videos. We're here today at DX Engineering headquarters in Talmadge, Ohio, and our good friend Don Daso, K4ZA, has come to see us.
Well, it's good to be here, Tim. Thank you.
And nice to have you here, Don. You know, a lot of people have probably read your articles, National Contest Journal. Maybe they've had an antenna or two installed by you, but I'll bet a lot of viewers don't know how you got started in this hobby.
Well, that's probably true. Like a lot of people of my generation, I got started as a quote-unquote shortwave listener, although it was a very backward sort of thing. We had a large, I grew up on a farm in Ohio, and up near Medina, and we had a large Zenith table radio that was specifically devoted to listening to the Cleveland Indians baseball games. Had a very large dial, 4 5-inch flywheel, you know. It was a very interesting little radio. What intrigued me about it was the dial itself, which was black, had white letters, and it said things like Paris and London and stuff like that. And then there was a switch at the bottom labeled band. And I was not really allowed to touch that radio because it was set on the Jimmy Dudley and the Cleveland Indians. But one night my parents were away, and I said, I'll just throw caution to the winds. And I turned that band switch and I spun that dial, and it coasted around, and it literally stopped. It was just a serendipitous sort of moment, but it literally stopped, and it said London, and out of the speaker came this stentorian voice, "This is London." And I was bright enough to know that this was actually a British person in London speaking to me, and I couldn't quite figure out how that was possible. I'm a farm boy in Ohio, and how can I be listening to somebody in London? So I went to the library and looked up some books and things, and found out that this was shortwave radio, and this was how this was all possible. And it wasn't and my parents yelled at me for turning the radio on and moving the dial, but we got over that. And then I would play with the radio, and I eventually found a place on the dial where it was marked amateur. And this, of course, was 1958, 1960, and AM was predominant, and there were guys just like us talking. And I said, now how is this possible? Once again to the library, and found out that these were hams. And boy, it didn't take long for me to say, I got to do that.
And how old were you when you discovered
12.
ham radio? You were 12. And so you take your novice exam, and what's your novice call?
Whiskey November 8, HJW.
HJW.
A horrible code call.
Right. Now, so when you end up general class, it's WA8 HJW, right?
Correct.
And
well, actually, I upgraded to technician.
Oh, okay.
And that was WA8 HJW, and I didn't like that call at all.
Right.
And I wasn't doing any phone. I was too poor, and I was still playing code, so I said, I got to get a better call. So I upgraded to general and didn't mark, the little box to keep the call, and so I was issued WA8 MAZ.
And that was one.
That was a better call.
That was a better call.
And I kept that for a number of years until I, upgraded to WZ3Q when I was living in Maryland, which was not much shorter, but it was at least a call resident where I lived. And I kept that until I got the K4ZA in '96, I guess.
Nice. And so back to the National Contest Journal and the articles that you write, and then you wrote a book about your profession.
Correct.
Now.
Well, I spent 30 years as a lighting cameraman, director of photography, shooting films and videos, and I got laid off in 2000, I guess it is, or I guess it was. And being a relatively old guy, it was not a good time to be looking for a job. And I had always done tower work for people. I'd always climbed towers. I put up my first tower when I was 15, and so I was going to do a tower job for somebody that weekend. I said, that tower job we're going to do, I'm just going to have to charge for that. And the reaction sort of surprised me, because it was, okay. No questions, no complaints, no worries or anything. And, that's sort of started this so-called second career. The career has been driven or supported by the book, as you mentioned. In 2009, ARRL called me up and asked me if I would consider writing a book. And because I've written a lot of articles for all the magazines, and I thought, piece of cake. I have a couple of degrees in English journalism, and I thought it'd be easy because I could just gather all these articles together, and the book will essentially be done, be already written. And I actually did that. I Xeroxed them all out, I punched them, and I put them in a 3-ring binder, and I organized it, and then I sat down and read it, and I realized this is horrible. This is just a collection of things that has no flow, no logic. It's horrible. I can't possibly do this. So I bought a laptop and I went out, and I'd go on tower jobs and I'd sit in the motel at night and I, started writing the book from scratch. And it took me a year and a half.
Wow. But it's a really good read. I mean, anybody who is thinking about a tower project, an antenna project, let alone climbing, but I mean, it's really got a lot of juicy stuff in it.
Well, thank you. I'm quite proud of it. It's a labor of love. I mean, the league did pay me to write the book. Don't get me wrong, but when you consider that it took me a year and a half to write, that amortizes out to about 7 cents an hour or something. But anyway, I really enjoyed it, and the thing I always tell people, and some people are very surprised by this and think that I'm trying to be funny or what, but it proved to me or showed me that I could actually write a book.
Right.
I mean, I've written scores of articles, and I had no idea I could write a book. And I must admit, or I must say, that I really want to do it again. And my wife thinks I should retire and stop this whole silly tower thing and just write books. But I got to come up with another topic or an idea, and then I would probably consider that. But I did get a big kick out of writing it. I really did.
Well, you sort of have a treasure trove of experiences now. You spent the last 15 years or so doing tower jobs in various places around the country.
Right.
And in fact, I was your ground crew in Oklahoma once.
Right.
And you just never know where Don's going to pop
show up. Right.
And so I don't know. Maybe there's some book material there just on each one of these things. No two are the same.
That's absolutely correct. That's one of the things I always try to tell people. The primary thing that makes a ham radio installation special or different is that each one is unique. It's not like we're putting up cell towers where we're using the same tower, putting up the same antenna, yada, 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 ad infinitum. I mean, each ham system or setup is a unique and special installation. That's why it's difficult to provide a meaningful estimate, because your terrain is different than, Bob's, is different than Ted's, that sort of thing. So you almost have to do a site survey. So a number of people have said, you just need to write about all the individual experiences. And I've thought about that, and some of them are funny and humorous and probably libelous if I would, be truthful and all that. So I don't know. I have a lot of stuff written down about those jobs, and I consider that from time to time, but I, haven't moved on it.
Well, it's just amazing to think of how many hams that you have gone and helped them with their station, with their antennas, and they wouldn't be on the air if it wasn't for you.
Correct. Yeah. I do have more reviews than anyone else on the eHam site, which is, I guess, good in the sense that it, portrays, that I know what I'm doing, and, people like my work and that sort of thing. And you're absolutely correct. I was just telling Bob, W5OV at lunch, that, every now and then, I get a little bonus. Like a little client last week, he just turned to me, he paid the bill and he said, here's $50. And that's a nice feeling. I mean, that he felt it enough, positive response or reaction to my work to, give me a little bonus. But you're right. I mean, there is a certain amount of satisfaction from looking at DX, results, or looking at contest results, or people will call you up and say, "You won't believe I just worked the VP8," that sort of thing. You go, "Well, that's pretty cool." I put that stuff up,
Right.
So that's a nice feeling.
So, being that you work, in the amateur radio business, what do you do for fun?
That's a good question. I'm an inveterate reader. I like to read, I guess that's what makes me a good writer. So I do a lot of that. I'm one of the, there is a certain irony at work here because I'm the ham radio tower guy without a tower. We live in we live in an HOA community with a lot of covenants and restrictions. I live there because my wife, it's her house, and it's 4 miles from the University of North Carolina where she worked, and it was very convenient for her. I used to have a station, out in the woods in Gaston County, very near Charlotte, where I had 3 towers, and our plan was to build a new house out there and put towers back up, but she's had some medical issues and probably won't be doing that, so I think I'll just not live in the old house, but keep the old house and put the towers back up and be happy with that.
Well, it sounds like, at least you have a book you can read and a book you can write.
Right, absolutely.
on the tower subject. Don, we really enjoyed you coming in and talking with us today, and we hope the viewers have enjoyed it as much as I have, and we look forward to the next edition of DX Engineering Videos.
All right.
73 for now.
All right, thanks, Tim.